Never go exploring where you don't belong. That's what they don't tell you about adventure. It's not always worth what you might find. Back in the 1960s, Nevada was dotted with fallout shelters hidden beneath schools, homes, and even playgrounds. Fear of nuclear war loomed large, and people thought these shelters would be their salvation. But one particular shelter was different. Built by a paranoid billionaire on government land, it wasn't just for safety, it was for secrecy. And when the doors sealed for the final time, no one really knew what was locked inside. Fast forward to today, and that shelter has become a local legend in a quiet Nevada town. A dare for thrill-seeking teenagers who want a taste of danger. But legends exist for a reason, and some doors should never be opened. It all started with a map. Clara found it in a box of junk at her grandmother's house, buried beneath old newspapers and yellowed letters. The map wasn't labeled, just a series of lines and coordinates scrawled in faded ink. But it was enough to pique her curiosity. Clara was the kind of girl who lived for a mystery. She'd drag her friends into abandoned buildings, dusty archives, and overgrown cemeteries. Anywhere there might be a story hiding in the shadows. So when she showed the map to her friends, they didn't hesitate. They all wanted to see where it led. "It's probably just an old mine shaft," Ryan said, leaning against the hood of his beat-up car. He was the skeptic of the group, always grounding Clara's wild theories. "Or a treasure vault," Clara countered, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Come on, don't you want to find out?" Lena and Max exchanged a glance. Max shrugged. "Could be cool. Better than sitting around all weekend." "Fine," Ryan relented. "But if we get arrested for trespassing, I'm blaming you." The four of them set off the next morning, armed with flashlights, backpacks, and way more snacks than they needed. The coordinates led them deep into the desert, far from the main roads. The land was barren and quiet, the kind of place where your footsteps felt too loud, and the horizon seemed endless. After hours of hiking, they found it. A rusted hatch, half buried in the sand. Clara's heart raced as she brushed away the dirt, revealing a faded stenciled warning. "Authorized personnel only. Violators will be prosecuted." "Looks legit," Max said, though he didn't sound convinced. "It's just a leftover from the Cold War," Clara said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Nobody's used it in decades." Ryan hesitated. "What if it's unstable or, I don't know, radioactive?" "We'll be fine," Clara insisted. "It's probably empty anyway." With some effort, they managed to pry the hatch open. A ladder descended into the darkness, the metal rungs cool to the touch, despite the scorching desert sun. Clara went first, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. The air grew colder the deeper they went, carrying a faint metallic tang. At the bottom, they found themselves in a narrow corridor, the walls lined with peeling paint and faded posters urging people to stay calm, stay safe. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their footsteps. The shelter was larger than they expected. Room after room stretched out before them. A cafeteria with overturned tables, a dormitory filled with rusted bunks, a storage area stocked with ancient canned goods. It was like stepping into a time capsule. "This is so cool," Lena whispered, her voice echoing slightly. She ran her fingers over a dusty crate, labeled Supplies, 1963. "See? Told you it was worth it," Clara said, grinning. But as they ventured deeper, the atmosphere began to shift. The air felt heavier, the shadows darker. The faint hum of electricity seemed to buzz in their ears, though they couldn't find the source. In one of the back rooms, they found a massive steel door, sealed tight. A red light above it blinked faintly, despite the obvious lack of power elsewhere. "Why would this still be on?" Ryan asked, his brow furrowed. "Backup generator, maybe?" Clara suggested, though even she sounded uncertain. Max pressed his ear to the door. I think I hear something, like scratching. Don't joke, Lena said, her voice tight. I'm not joking, Max insisted. He stepped back, his face pale. I'm serious. Despite their unease, curiosity won out. Clara found a control panel nearby, its buttons coated in dust. She wiped them clean and studied the labels. One of them read, Manual Override. We shouldn't, Ryan said, backing away. We don't know what's in there. That's exactly why we have to, Clara replied. She pressed the button before anyone could stop her. The door groaned as it began to open, the red light blinking faster. A rush of stale air spilled out, carrying with it a smell none of them could quite place. Something metallic and alive. The room beyond was shrouded in darkness. Clara shone her flashlight inside, revealing rows of strange equipment, their purpose unclear. In the center of the room stood a glass chamber, its surface fogged over. Inside, a faint shape shifted. What the hell is that? Lena whispered. Before anyone could answer, the chamber hissed. The glass began to crack. Panic set in. We need to leave, Ryan said, his voice trembling. But the door behind them slammed shut, trapping them inside. The glass shattered, and something emerged. A figure, impossibly tall and impossibly thin, its limbs bending in ways that defied logic. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its movements were unnervingly smooth, almost mechanical. The creature let out a low, guttural sound that resonated in their chests. It turned toward them, its gaze piercing, and then it moved, fast, too fast for them to react. What happened next was a blur. Clara screamed as the creature lunged, its limbs stretching unnaturally. Max tried to fight it off with a metal pipe, but it swatted him aside like he weighed nothing. They ran, weaving through the maze of corridors, the creature's footsteps echoing behind them. It didn't walk or run. It glided, its body almost floating as it pursued them. This way, Clara shouted, leading them toward a maintenance tunnel she'd spotted earlier. The tunnel was narrow and cramped, forcing them to crawl on their hands and knees. The creature's growls grew louder, closer. When they reached the other side, they found themselves in what looked like a control room. Monitors lined the walls, some still flickering with static. One screen showed a live feed of the shelter, the creature moving through the halls, searching. It's hunting us, Lena said, her voice shaking. We need to find a way out, Ryan said, scanning the room for an escape route. But Clara's attention was drawn to a file cabinet in the corner. She opened it and found a folder marked Project Eclipse, classified. Inside were pages of documents, diagrams, and photographs. The creature was in them, strapped to a table, wires running from its body. They created it, Clara murmured. They brought it here. What does that mean for us? Max asked, wincing as he clutched his injured arm. It means we're screwed, Ryan said bluntly. The rest of the story is a desperate race against time. The group discovers that the shelter was never meant to protect anyone. It was a prison, built to contain the creature, and now that it's free, it won't stop until it's destroyed everything in its path. One by one, the shelter's traps activate, trying to keep the creature contained, but they're just as dangerous to the group as they are to the monster. Clara realizes the only way to stop it is to seal the shelter from the inside, trapping herself with the creature. Her friends beg her not to, but Clara knows it's the only way. As the hatch seals above her, she faces the creature one last time, armed with nothing but her wits and a broken flashlight. Some say the shelter was destroyed in a controlled explosion the next day. Others claim it's still out there, buried beneath the sands, waiting for the next unlucky soul to stumble upon it. So if you ever find a map to a place that time forgot, think twice before you follow it. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that'll keep you up at night.